In the city of Cleveland, loyalty isn't a choice, it's a burden. For generations, fathers have looked at their sons and apologized for passing down these colors. Because wearing orange and brown doesn't mean you root for a football team, it means you sign up for a lifetime of heartbreak. They call it the factory of sadness, a place where hope goes to die. From Red Right 88 to the drive, from the fumble to the midnight move, from a graveyard of quarterbacks to a perfect 0-16 season. No other franchise has suffered like this. No other fan base has endured this much torture and still filled the stadium every Sunday in the freezing cold. Is it bad luck? Is it incompetence? Or is there something truly supernatural hanging over this city? This is a story of the Cleveland Browns, a story of a glorious past, a tragic present, and the curse that refuses to break.
To understand the pain, you have to remember the pride. Because before the curse, Cleveland was the king of the football world. Go back to the 1940s and 50s. The game was different then, and the Browns were the ones inventing it. Paul Brown, the man whose name is on the franchise, created the modern offense. Otto, the quarterback who never lost, led them to 10 championship games in 10 years, 7 titles. Think about that, 7 titles. Then came Jim Brown, the greatest player to ever put on cleats, an unstoppable force that terrified the entire league. Back then, Cleveland wasn't a punchline. It was a dynasty. It was the standard of excellence. Watching those old films now feels like looking at a different universe. The contrast is blinding. How did we go from the greatest show on earth to a tragedy? The ghosts of that era still haunt the stadium today, reminding everyone of what was lost.
The glory faded, but in the 1980s, the city dared to dream again. The cardiac kids were gone, and the Bernie Kosar era had begun. This team wasn't just talented, they were beloved. They represented the grit of a blue-collar town. They were knocking on the door of the Super Bowl. They were right there. But this is where the curse truly revealed itself. It didn't just make them lose. It made them lose in the most painful ways possible. First, the drive. 1987, John Elway marching 98 yards into the teeth of the dog pound, a slow-motion nightmare that silenced the stadium. Then, a year later, the fumble. 1 yard away from redemption, 1 yard away from tying the game, and then the ball came loose. It wasn't just a turnover. It was the moment the heart of the city broke. You can still hear the silence of that day. It was the moment the world realized Cleveland isn't just unlucky, they are cursed.
In the early 90s, amidst the rubble of broken dreams, a new architect arrived, Bill Belichick. He wasn't the legend we know today. He was young, misunderstood, and relentless. But he saw something no one else did. He was building a machine. Alongside him was Nick Saban, in the front office, Ozzie Newsome. It is the cruelest irony in sports history. The greatest coaching staff ever assembled was right here, in Cleveland, wearing orange and brown. They won a playoff game in 1994. The puzzle pieces were finally fitting together. But in Cleveland, hope is just a prelude to disaster. As just the sun began to break through the clouds, the sky turned pitch black. We didn't know it yet, but we were watching a phantom dynasty, a greatness that would bloom, but not for us. It would belong to someone else.
November 6th, 1995, the day the music stopped. When Art Modell announced he was moving the team to Baltimore, it didn't feel like a business transaction. It felt like a death in the family. For the first time in history, a city was losing its soul. The final games of that season were a surreal funeral. Imagine a stadium filled with 80,000 people, crying, hugging strangers, and ripping rows of seats out of the concrete just to have something to hold on to. They weren't hooligans. They were mourners. They were watching their childhood memories being stolen in real time. When the team left, they took the history. They took the staff, they took the future, and they left Cleveland in a silence that lasted for 3 long, cold years.
The city fought back. They sued the league. They demanded their name, their colors, and their history stay in Cleveland, and they won. In 1999, the Browns returned. The parade was joyous. The stadium was loud. It felt like the nightmare was over, but we were wrong. The nightmare had just evolved. The team that took the field wasn't the team that left. It was an expansion team, a group of strangers wearing familiar uniforms. The soul was gone. While the old Browns personnel were busy winning Super Bowls in Baltimore, the new Browns were stumbling in the dark. This was the beginning of the modern curse, a cycle of bad drafts, bad coaching, and bad luck that would make the previous heartbreak seem like the good old days. The ghost of the past was back, but the magic was gone. Since 1999, the position of quarterback in Cleveland has become the most dangerous job in sports. They come with high hopes, first-round picks, Heisman Trophy winners, saviors. Tim Couch, Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield. The names change, but the story ends the same. The jersey has become a monument to instability, a scroll of names taped over one another, stretching down to the floor. It's not just bad scouting. It feels like the soil itself rejects them. In any other city, some of these young men would have been stars. In Cleveland, they were swallowed by the chaos. The stadium became a graveyard where careers went to die, and the fans were forced to watch the funeral Sunday after Sunday.
And then the bottom fell out. 2017. To lose every single game in a season requires a special kind of curse. It requires a perfect storm of bad luck, bad calls, and broken spirits. 0-16. The world laughed, but Cleveland didn't hide. They threw a parade. Thousands lined the streets in the freezing cold, not to celebrate, but to survive, to look the disaster in the eye and say, "We are still here." It was a moment of pure absurdity, a perfect season parade for a perfectly broken team. It was rock bottom, but in a strange way, it proved that nothing, absolutely nothing, could kill the loyalty of this city.
The curse is cruelest when it gives you hope. For a brief moment, the sun broke through. A playoff win against the Steelers. The demons of the past seemed to be exorcised. The city exploded in relief. But the curse is patient. Just as quickly as it arrived, the hope vanished. Injuries, trauma, another restart, another rebuild. It feels like Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill only to watch it roll back down just before reaching the top. The cycle of wait until next year began all over again.
So, why do they stay? Why do they keep coming back to the shores of Lake Erie to get their hearts broken? Because being a Browns fan isn't about the result on the scoreboard. It's about endurance. It's about shared suffering. It's about a love that defies logic. They say one day the curse will break. One day the confetti will fall for them. And when that day comes, it won't just be a victory. It will be an exorcism. It will be the loudest sound the sporting world has ever heard. But until then, they wait, they hope, and they believe. Because in Cleveland, there is always next year.